Alright, in this video I'm going to talk more in depth about the special equations that show up over on the right. So here I'm looking at running back. I've got 5 special equations set up. If I switch over to, say, offensive lineman, I've only got 3 special equations. So as I said in the previous video, these are all configured under options, equations. So you can see here that for offensive lineman, here are my 3 equations that I've got. And again, by default, these will be the guess equations created by Bob Hazelwood. Now these equations are all saved in the config.ini file. So as long as you downloaded that config.ini file off of the GD reports site, then you will have those guess equations in there. And then additionally, if you ever put in your own equations, this is where they get saved, in this file. So if you ever wanted to upgrade to a newer version of the recruiting tool, you'd want to make sure to save your config.ini file. Alright, so I get a lot of questions about the kinds of equations that people can make. So you can see in these equations that pretty much every attribute can be put into the equation, and it's really easy to remember what a variable name would be because it's just the column names. So if you look at these column names for athleticism, speed, durability, those are the exact variable names that you would use in the equation for athleticism, speed, and so on. You can also use GPA, you can use miles, and you can use potential. One thing to know about miles and potential, when you use variables for those, they do have to be all uppercase. You can also use the formation IQs. So here I actually have some of the formation IQs. If I go back to my equations, so let's see here, offensive lineman, I'm going to rename this just test. Let's say I want to do I plus ND. So very simple equation. It's just going to sum up the formation IQ for I formation and the formation IQ of Notre Dame box. So I will save that, and now you can see that column is shown up, and it's showing me the I formation plus Notre Dame box. So it's pretty straightforward. You can also, the operators that it supports are plus, minus, multiplication, division, and parentheses. So I can do ND minus I can wrap that in parentheses. I can divide it by proset. So obviously this equation makes no sense, but I can do it. So here's the numbers that I'm getting now. If you ever mess up an equation, like this, the tool, it's not going to be able to figure anything out based on this, so it's just going to show zeros for everything. So now I just have zeros. So if you're ever entering an equation and you're just getting zeros, it's because there's something wrong with your equation. A more realistic one for an O-line might be something simple like block plus strength. So this is one that I might actually use and sort by. So here I can actually pick out the recruits that have super high strength plus block. White space doesn't matter. You can have spaces, or you can get rid of spaces. That doesn't matter. You don't need a 0 in front of decimals. So I can have 0.8 times block plus 0.8 times strength. And that's fine. Also, like I said, you can do miles, but it has to be all uppercase. Another thing you can do, I don't really recommend turning this off, but you can turn off the custom headers. If you do that, the user interface looks a little more simple, but then your column headers are just going to be S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6. You don't get the names, so I recommend leaving those on by default. Another thing to show is, so when I'm on O-line, it's obvious what the names of these columns should be. And when I'm on QB, it's obvious what the names of the columns should be. When I'm on all, it's not obvious what the names of the columns should be. So currently they're set up to just be G1 through G5 for guess 1, guess 2, guess 3, guess 4, guess 5. These column names are also configurable. So that's this all header. So I said that the first one, when I'm looking at all positions, should be just called G1, G2, G3, G4, G5. And I'm not using the sixth column at all by default, so it's just blank. It's generally not worthwhile to actually sort on any of these columns when you're in all, just because it's not perfectly normalized. Like, for example, QBs generally have much lower ratings than the other positions. I think that about sums up everything you need to know to create your own equations. But again, if you ever run into anything, any issues or have any questions, don't hesitate to site mail me, and I'll get back to you on that.